What money? That was rent. My father said it with a grin. 6 years, $144,000. Gone. He sat at the kitchen table with his coffee like he'd just read me the weather forecast. My mother wouldn't look at me. She stirred her tea. Clink, clink, clink. Like that spoon was the most fascinating thing in the room. They promised me every single dollar was going into a savings account. They showed me a screenshot of a balance. They told me, "Keep going, honey, you're almost at your down payment." And the whole time, they were spending it. On what? I didn't know yet. But when I found out, I stopped asking questions. And I started saving evidence. This is a story about a folder. And what happened when I opened it at Thanksgiving dinner in front of 30 people. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe. But only if you genuinely connect with this story. And while you're at it, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. My name is Myra. I'm 28. I work in a dental lab in a small town in Virginia. Now let me take you back 6 years, to the week I moved home after college graduation. The day I carry my last box through the front door, my parents are waiting at the kitchen table. Not casually. Positioned. Dad at the head, Mom to his right. 2 mugs of coffee already poured, a third one steaming at the empty chair. That should have been my first clue. My parents don't pour coffee for me. "Sit down, sweetheart," Mom says. "Dad and I have been talking." I'm 22. I've just walked across a stage in a rented gown, shaken a dean's hand, and received a degree in applied sciences. Starting Monday, I have a job at a dental lab 14 minutes from this house. Salary, $42,000 a year before taxes. Not a fortune, but real. Dad clears his throat. "Here's the deal. You live here. Save money. Pay us $2,000 a month. And we put every penny into a savings account in your name. 3, 4 years. You've got a down payment. You're buying a house before any of your friends. $2,000 a month. $24,000 a year. I do the math in 2 seconds. My friends are signing leases on apartments. 12, 1,500 a month. And getting nothing back. This is different. This is an investment." "It's the smart move," Mom adds. She reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. "We're doing this for you, honey." I say yes before I finish my coffee. That night, I'm in my childhood bedroom unpacking when I hear them through the wall. Their voices are low, but the house is old and the walls are thin. Mom's voice. "This solves everything, Dale." I smile. I think she means me staying home. She doesn't. But I won't learn what everything means for another 3 years. Let me tell you what $2,000 a month looks like when you make $42,000 a year. After taxes, I take home roughly $2,700 every 2 weeks. Half of each paycheck goes straight to my parents. What's left covers gas, car insurance, my phone bill, and groceries I buy to cook dinners for the family. Because Mom says it's the least I can do since I'm living at home. I drive a 2014 Honda Civic with a cracked dashboard and a passenger window that only goes down 3/4 of the way. My coworkers go to lunch at the sandwich place on Route 9. I eat leftovers from a Tupperware container at my desk. "Why don't you just get your own place?" my coworker Danielle asks one afternoon. "I have a plan," I say. "It's going to be worth it." And I believe that. Completely. Because here's the thing. I'm not suffering in silence. I'm investing. Every month my parents are putting my money aside, and every month I'm one step closer to a front door with my name on the deed. Around month 12, I ask Mom for the balance. Casually. Over dishes. "Can I see the account? I want to add it to my budget spreadsheet." "Of course," she says. "I'll send you a screenshot tonight." At 9:47 p.m., my phone buzzes. A screenshot. White background. One line. $24,000. No bank logo. No account number. Just a number on a screen. $24,000. 12 months times 2,000. The math checks out perfectly. I stare at it in bed, and something in my chest loosens. I'm doing this right. I save the screenshot. I don't save it because I'm suspicious. I save it because I'm proud. My brother Travis is 3 years older than me. Electrician. Married his high school girlfriend Jenna at 24. They have a daughter now, Lily, 3 years old, red curls, laughs at everything. Travis lived in this house until he was 25, 4 years after high school. He never paid $1 of rent. Not once. When I bring this up at dinner one night, not angry, just curious, Dad sets his fork down like I've insulted him. Travis had different circumstances. He was saving for a wedding. I'm saving for a house, I say. That's different. How? Mom cuts in before Dad answers. Don't compare yourself to your brother, Myra. This is about your future. I let it go. I always let it go. 2 months later, Travis and Jenna close on a house. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, half-acre lot in the newer subdivision off Miller Road. Listed at $260,000. Down payment, $52,000. Everyone at Sunday dinner congratulates them. Dad stands up, claps Travis on the shoulder. That's my boy, a real homeowner. I smile, I clap. I say the right things. But in the car on the way to the pharmacy that evening, a thought scratches at me and won't stop. Travis makes decent money as an electrician, sure. But Jenna was part-time at the daycare center. They had a baby. They had a wedding to pay off. $52,000 for a down payment. Where did that come from? I roll the window down. The 3/4 it'll go. And let the cold air hit my face. I don't have an answer yet. But the question starts living in me like a low hum I can't turn off. Year 3. I've paid $72,000. I ask Mom for the account number. Not the balance. The account number. I want to set up my own online access. We're standing in the kitchen. She's wiping down the counter. She doesn't look up. It's a joint account under Dad's name. You can't access it separately. Can I at least see the statements? Of course, I'll send you one tonight. Tonight comes and goes. I wait a week. Then I text her. Hey Mom, still waiting on that statement. No rush, just want it for my records. So sorry, honey. Been swamped at work. This weekend, I promise. Weekend comes and goes. I ask again, lightly, carefully, like poking a bruise to see how deep it is. 3 weeks later, she sends a new screenshot. Same white background, same plain font. Balance, $72,000. The math checks out. 3 years? $24,000 per year. $72,000 total. But this time, I look more closely. No bank name, no routing number, no header, no footer. Just a number floating on a white screen, like it was typed into the Notes app on her phone. I zoom in. The font spacing is slightly uneven. My stomach does something strange. Not a lurch. More like a flinch. I sit on my bed and stare at the screenshot for 11 minutes. I know because I check the time when I start and when I stop. Then I tell myself, it's Mom. She probably just cropped it weird. I put my phone on the nightstand. I turn off the light. But I don't fall asleep for a long time. And the low hum from that night in the car, the one about Travis's down payment, gets a little louder. 3 Sundays later, the clinic closes early for a plumbing issue. I'm home by 2. The house is quiet. Dad's truck is gone. But Mom's car is in the driveway, and the sliding glass door to the backyard is open about 4 inches. I hear her voice before I see her. She's on the patio, phone pressed to her ear, facing the garden. I set my keys down on the counter, softly. Covered most of Travis's down payment, she says. She doesn't know. And Dale thinks we can keep this going another 2 years, pay off the rest of the business loans. My hand freezes on the countertop. A voice on the other end, tinny through the speaker, says something I can't make out. Then Mom again. Ruth, relax. She'll get her money eventually, when Dale's business picks up. Aunt Ruth, Mom's younger sister, the retired accountant. I hear Ruth's voice now, clearer. Connie, that's not right. You told her it was a savings account. It will be, eventually, Just don't say anything. I don't move. I don't breathe wrong. I stand behind the kitchen island with my hand flat on the granite and feel my heartbeat in my fingertips. 52,000. Travis's down payment, my money, and the rest of the business loans. Dad's plumbing company, the one he swore was doing fine. I go to my room. I close the door without a sound. I sit on the edge of my bed. I look at my hands. Then I open my phone. I take a screenshot of the date and time, Sunday, October 15th, 2:07 p.m. I don't scream. I don't cry. I start a folder. That night, I lock my bedroom door and open the calculator app. 3 years paid. $72,000 gone. If I keep going 2 more years the way Dad wants. Another $48,000. Total, $120,000. Gone into a business I was never told was failing. Gone into a house I'll never live in. Gone. I run the scenarios. If I confront them now, they'll deny it. Mom will cry. Dad will get loud. They'll say I misheard. They might even delete the texts, wipe the emails, claim the screenshots were estimates or projections. And it'll be my word against theirs. If I walk away, just stop paying and move out. I lose everything I've already put in. $72,000. No legal standing, no paper trail, just a bitter daughter with a story nobody can verify. But if I stay, if I keep paying, if I make them keep talking, keep texting, keep emailing, keep leaving voicemails, every message becomes a line in a ledger they don't know I'm keeping. I open Google Drive. I create a new folder. I name it Home Fund Docs. The first thing I upload is the screenshot from tonight. The date, the time, the moment I found out. Then I go back through my texts. Every message where Mom mentions savings. Every email where Dad says, the account. Screenshot. Upload. Screenshot. Upload. 14 items by midnight. I close the laptop. I brush my teeth. I look at myself in the bathroom mirror for a long time. I'm not staying because I'm afraid to leave. I'm staying because I need them to keep lying. On the record. Tomorrow morning, I'll hand Mom the check like I always do. $2,000. She'll smile. She'll say thank you. And she won't know it's the first payment in a very different kind of account. I become very careful about how I ask questions. Never in person. Never where the answer disappears into the air. Always by text. Always by email. Always in words that stay. A week after the phone call, I send Mom a message. Hey Mom, just checking. The savings account is still at the same bank, right? I want to include it in my budget spreadsheet. 3 dots. Then, yes, honey, everything's growing nicely. Dad and I are so proud of how responsible you are. Screenshot. Upload. 2 months later, I email Dad. He's old school. Checks email for his plumbing business. Doesn't text much. I keep it casual. Dad, when do you think I'll be able to access the savings? I'm starting to browse house listings just to get a feel for the market. His reply comes the next evening. Give it another year or 2. The interest is good. Don't rush it. You'll thank us later. Screenshot. Upload. I never ask a question I don't already know the answer to. I just need them to put their answer in writing. Every 2 or 3 months, I find a new angle. Should I start looking at fixed-rate mortgages? Do you think $72,000 is enough for a down payment in this market? Should I start talking to a realtor? Every time they respond, every time they reference the savings, the account, your money, and every time I save it. Mom even sends a heart emoji once. Your future home fund is looking great, sweetheart. I stare at that text for a long time. Your future home fund. 5 words. Typed by her thumb, time-stamped by her phone. She has no idea she just wrote a line in my evidence folder. I close the app and go cook dinner for the family. Like always. Year 4, a Tuesday in March. I'm at the lab, hands gloved, bent over a dental mold, when my phone vibrates in my coat pocket. I can't pick up. Mom leaves a voicemail. I don't listen to it until lunch. I sit in my car in the parking lot, windows up, engine off, and press play. Hey, sweetie, just wanted to let you know, I moved some of your savings into a different fund. Better rate. I'll explain when you get home. Love you. I replay it. 3 times. Your savings. Her voice. Her words. Recorded. Time-stamped. Stored on my carrier's servers. I save the voicemail. Then I back it up to my cloud. Then I email the audio file to myself. 3 copies. 3 locations. That night, Mom explains at the dinner table. I moved your money into a higher yield account. It's earning more now. Dad nods along like he's been briefed. That sounds great, I say. Thanks for staying on top of it. Of course, baby. That's what parents are for. I smile. I chew my pot roast. I ask for seconds. Inside, I'm cataloging. She said, your savings in a voicemail. She said, your money at the dinner table. Dad nodded. Both of them. Same room, same story, same lie. After dinner, I go to my room and open the Google Drive folder. 14 screenshots, 3 email threads, and now 1 voicemail. 18 pieces, and counting. I lie in bed and think about something Aunt Ruth said on the phone that Sunday. That's not right, Connie. Ruth knows. Ruth disapproves. Ruth told Mom to stop. But Ruth is Mom's sister. Blood runs thick in this family. The question is, how thick? I drive to Aunt Ruth's house on a Saturday morning, 30 minutes through back roads, past the feed store and the old rail bridge. She lives in a small brick rancher with window boxes full of pansies. She opens the door before I knock, like she's been expecting me. Kitchen, she says. I just made coffee. We sit across from each other at her little formica table. She's 52. Retired early. Bad knees. Worse back. 26 years as a county accountant. She knows what money looks like when it's been moved around. I don't ease into it. Aunt Ruth, I need to ask you something, and I need the truth. She looks at me for a long time. Her coffee steams between her hands. You heard us on the phone that Sunday, didn't you? I nod. She closes her eyes, opens them, sets her mug down. Your mother told me, her exact words, Myra's rent money covered most of Travis's down payment. I told her it wasn't right. She said you'd get it back when Dale's business picked up. And you believed her? No. Ruth shakes her head. I didn't. The kitchen is quiet except for the tick of her wall clock. A cardinal lands on the feeder outside the window and leaves. Aunt Ruth, if I ever needed you to say that out loud, to someone who matters, would you? She doesn't answer immediately. I watch her jaw work. She's thinking about Connie, about blood, about holidays and phone calls and 30 years of sisterhood. Then she reaches across the table and puts her hand over mine. She's my sister. But you're my niece, and what they did is wrong. I squeeze her hand. I don't say anything else. I drive home with both hands on the wheel and a second name in my corner. Year 5. I find the county legal aid clinic the way most people find things they need badly, late at night, alone, typing into a search bar with shaking fingers. Free consultation? Tuesdays and Thursdays? Walk-ins welcome. I go on a Thursday after work, still in my scrubs. The waiting room smells like floor wax and old magazines. A woman with a stroller sits across from me, bouncing a baby on her knee. A man in paint-stained jeans fills out a form with a pencil stub. They call my name after 40 minutes. Greg Novak, paralegal. Mid-40s, reading glasses on a cord, shirt sleeves rolled to the elbow. He shakes my hand and points to a chair. Tell me what happened. I talk for 30 minutes. I don't cry. I lay it out the way I've been rehearsing in my car for months. Facts, dates, dollar amounts. Then I open my phone and show him the folder. He scrolls. Slowly. His face doesn't change, but his scrolling slows down the deeper he gets. How many pieces of evidence do you have? 22. Texts, emails, 1 voicemail, and a witness. He takes his glasses off and looks at me. This isn't just a verbal promise, Myra. You have corroborating written and recorded evidence. In Virginia, this could qualify as promissory estoppel. They made a clear promise. You relied on it. You suffered financially because of that reliance, and they knew you were relying on it. So I have a case? You have a strong case, but $144,000? If you go the full 6 years, that's above small claims. You'd need to file in circuit court. We can connect you with a pro bono attorney. I nod. My hands aren't shaking anymore. I want to wait, I say. Until I've paid the full 6 years. I want the number to be final. Greg studies me, then nods. Smart, but keep saving every piece. I walk out into the parking lot. The sun is going down behind the courthouse. I sit in my Civic and grip the steering wheel. For the first time in 3 years, I feel something other than anger. I feel ready. Year 6. October. The final payment clears. 72 months. $144,000. That same week, Mom sends a group text to the entire family. Thanksgiving at our place this year. Everyone's coming. 30 people confirmed. I'm so excited. I read the text in my car outside the clinic. I read it again. Then I open the calendar and count the days. 5 weeks. I call Greg Novak. He connects me with Pamela Harding, a contract disputes attorney who takes pro bono cases through legal aid. She's brisk on the phone. No small talk. Bring me everything. I bring her everything. The printed folder is 2 inches thick. She goes through it at her desk while I sit across from her, hands folded, watching her read my life in time-stamped increments. After 20 minutes, she sets it down. You have one of the strongest promissory estoppel cases I've seen at this dollar amount. We can file the day after the holiday. What if they deny everything? She looks at me over her glasses. Do you think they will? In front of the whole family? Yes. Good. Denial in front of 30 witnesses helps, not hurts. Every person in that room becomes a potential deposition. I don't plan to make a scene at Thanksgiving. I plan to ask one question, one last time, in front of people who can hear the answer. If they tell the truth, we handle it as family. If they lie, I handle it in court. The week before Thanksgiving, I go to the office supply store on Route 9 and buy a manila folder. I print every screenshot, every email, every voicemail transcript. I slide them in. I close the clasp. It weighs almost nothing. It holds everything. Thanksgiving Day. 2 o'clock. I pull up to the house and park behind a row of cars that stretches past the mailbox. Trucks, sedans, a minivan with a car seat in the back. The whole family. I check my rearview mirror. My eyes are steady. My lipstick is fine. My bag sits on the passenger seat, unzipped just enough that I can see the edge of the manila folder. Inside, the house smells like roasting turkey and cinnamon. Mom's Spotify playlist plays soft country music from the Bluetooth speaker in the living room. 30 people fill the downstairs. Aunts and uncles in the kitchen, cousins in the den, kids running through the hall. Mom finds me at the door. She pulls me into a hug that lasts 2 seconds too long. My baby girl, come in, everyone's here. Travis nods from across the living room. He's got a beer in one hand, Lily on his hip. Jenna's beside him, laughing at something Cousin Mike said. Dad's out back, standing over the grill, turning something that doesn't need turning. I make the rounds. I hug Aunt Ruth. She squeezes my arm, just once, just slightly, and I know she knows today is the day. I hug Grandma, who cups my face with both hands. You look thin, baby. I help Mom set the long table. I fold napkins. I carry the sweet potato casserole from the oven. I bounce Lily on my knee and make her laugh. Nobody looks at me twice. Nobody suspects anything. I am the youngest daughter doing what she always does. Showing up, helping out, keeping quiet. My bag sits on the floor by the coat rack. The folder is inside. The folder is patient. So am I. After the main course, Dad stands. He picks up his glass of sweet tea and taps it with a fork. Clink, clink, clink. Everybody, if I could have your attention. The room quiets. 30 faces turn toward him. He's wearing his good flannel. The one without paint stains. He looks proud. He looks like a man who believes his own story. I just want to say how grateful I am for this family, for this house, for the food. He pauses. And I'm especially proud of Travis. 31 years old. Beautiful home. Beautiful wife. Beautiful daughter. He's the one who really figured it out. Clapping. Travis grins. Jenna squeezes his arm. Dad isn't done. Myra. He turns to me, still smiling. You'll get there someday. Don't worry. Some people just take a little longer. Soft laughter, not cruel. Worse, patronizing. A few heads nod. An aunt I see once a year leans toward me. Still renting, sweetie? Mom answers before I can. She's saving up. She's got a plan. I look at her. A plan. I repeat her words. She smiles at me without a flicker. I set my fork down, quietly. I look at my plate. Turkey, stuffing, cranberry sauce. The same meal I've eaten at this table every November for 28 years. Sitting there, hearing my father tell 30 people that Travis figured it out with my money, I think, does he actually believe this? Or does he just need to say it out loud so it becomes true? If you've ever sat at a family table and been made into the cautionary tale while the person who benefited from you got the toast, you know exactly what this feels like. What would you have done? Tell me in the comments. I reach for my bag. I wait for the applause to settle, for forks to resume, for attention to scatter. Then I speak. Not loud. Just clear enough for the table to hear. Dad, since we're all here, I found a house I want to buy. He looks up, still riding the glow of his toast. I'd like to start the process of withdrawing from the savings account. The one you and Mom have been managing for me. 6 years. $144,000. The room shifts. Not dramatically. Just. A few forks pause. A few heads turn. Dad looks at Mom. Mom looks at her plate. What savings account? He says. The one I've been paying $2,000 a month into. For 6 years. He stares at me. Then he laughs. Not nervous. Genuine. Like I've told a joke he finds truly funny. Myra, that was rent. You lived in our house. That was rent. The word lands in the center of the table like a dropped plate. You told me it was going into savings, I say. I don't know what you're talking about. Mom's voice, small. Dale's right. It was just rent, honey. I look at her. She's stirring her iced tea again. Clink, clink. The same sound from the kitchen table 6 months ago when this all began. 30 people sit in silence. Uncle Frank's wife puts her napkin down. Grandma's eyes move from me to Mom to Dad like she's watching a slow-motion car wreck. Travis, from the far end. Come on, Myra, don't do this here. Think about the family. Think about the family. The family that spent my money. The family that lied about it. The family that just laughed at me. I don't answer Travis. I reach into my bag. I place the manila folder on the table, right between the gravy boat and the cranberry sauce. I don't slam it. I don't throw it. I set it down the way you'd set down a hymnal in church. I didn't want to do this here, I say, but you just denied everything in front of our entire family, so let me show them what I have. I open the folder. The first page is a printed text message. I hold it up so the table can see. This is a text from you, Mom. March 15th, year 2. I asked about the savings account. You replied, and I quote, "Everything's growing nicely." Mom's lips part. No sound comes out. I turn to the second page. This is an email from you, Dad. October 8th, year 3. I asked when I could access the savings. You wrote, "Give it another year or two. The interest is good." Dad's grin is gone. His face has gone a color I've never seen before. Not red, not white. Something between, like a man watching a locked door swing open. I pull out the third page. And this is a transcript of a voicemail from you, Mom. You said, and I have the audio, I moved some of your savings into a different fund. Nobody moves. The Spotify playlist has cycled to some soft guitar song that nobody hears. Uncle Frank leans forward. Cousin Mike sets his beer down. Grandma's hands are flat on the table. Mom's eyes are locked on the folder. Her face has gone white. Not pink white. White. The color of someone watching their own handwriting on a page they never expected to see again. "Where did you get that?" she whispers. "From you," I say. "All of you. You just didn't think I was paying attention." The room fractures. Connie's hand goes to her mouth. Her eyes fill up. Right on cue. "You're tearing this family apart, Myra. On Thanksgiving. How could you?" Before I can respond, Grandma's voice cuts from the end of the table. Low, steady, 80 years of authority in 4 words. "Connie, let the girl talk." Dad stands. His chair scrapes the hardwood. "This is ridiculous. She lived here. She ate our food. $2,000 a month is fair rent anywhere." Uncle Frank doesn't look up from his plate. "Dale, $2,000 a month for a bedroom in this town? That's more than my mortgage." Aunt Linda, Frank's wife, nods. Cousin Mike crosses his arms. The room is choosing sides without saying a word. Dad jabs a finger toward me. "You're ungrateful. After everything we did for you. You used her money for Travis's house." It's Aunt Ruth. She says it from the kitchen doorway, arms folded, voice flat as a tax return. "Connie told me herself, down to the dollar." Mom spins toward her sister. "Ruth!" "Don't Ruth me, Connie. I told you 2 years ago it wasn't right." The room goes silent again. Jenna, Travis's wife, turns to look at him. Her face is open, confused, like she's hearing a language she doesn't speak. "Travis," Jenna says, "is that true?" He doesn't answer. He picks up his beer, puts it down, picks it up again. "Your down payment," Jenna says, slower. "The $52,000. That was Myra's money?" Travis looks at the ceiling. "It's complicated." "It's not complicated. It's simple arithmetic and a lie that just ran out of room." Jenna's jaw tightens. She stands up from the table. Lily starts to fuss. The family hasn't eaten dessert yet. They won't. I close the folder. I stand. The room watches me the way a room watches someone who's about to walk out of a church in the middle of a sermon. Not angry, not cheering, just witnessing. "I didn't come here to fight," I say. "I came here to give you one last chance to do the right thing." I look at Dad, then Mom. "Give me a repayment plan, a real one, on paper, with dates and amounts, and we handle this as family. No lawyers, no courts." Dad's neck is red. His hands are flat on the table. He's breathing through his nose. "You're not getting a dime," he says. "You want to sue your own parents? Go ahead. Sue me." The words hang in the room like smoke. I look at him for 3 seconds. I nod. "Okay." I turn to the room. "I'm sorry to everyone here for this. You didn't deserve to spend your Thanksgiving this way. But I spent 6 years being lied to, and I wasn't going to spend another minute." I pick up the folder. I pick up my bag. I'm halfway to the door when Grandma's voice reaches me. "Myra, honey." I stop. I turn. She's still sitting. Her hands are still flat on the table. Her eyes are wet, but her jaw is set. "I believe you." 3 words. From the woman who held this family together for 50 years. I nod. I don't trust my voice, so I just nod. I walk out the front door. The screen bangs shut behind me. The November air hits my face and I realize my cheeks are dry. I didn't cry. Not once. In my rearview mirror, I see Mom on the porch. Then Aunt Ruth behind her, bending down, picking up pages that have scattered from the folder Dad threw after me. I drive home, both hands on the wheel. No music. It's done. The next part is for the court. Monday morning, 9 a.m. I call Pamela Harding from the dental lab parking lot before clocking in. He told me to sue him, in front of 30 people. Silence on the line, then a short exhale that might be a laugh. Then let's not disappoint him. We file Thursday. Promissory estoppel and unjust enrichment. Plaintiff, Myra J. Morrison. Defendants: Dale R. Morrison and Constance L. Morrison. Amount sought: $144,000. Filed in the Circuit Court of Augusta County, Virginia. I sign the documents at Pamela's desk. My handwriting is even. My hand is steady. The pen is a cheap ballpoint from a mug on her desk, and I think, this pen is worth more than every lie they ever told me. The summons is served to my parents' address the following Tuesday. Dad has to sign for it. I know this because the process server confirms it by email. Received by Dale R. Morrison, 11:42 a.m. at the front door. That evening, my phone lights up. 11 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Travis, 0 from Dad. I don't return any of them. Instead, I send one text. To Mom. Short. All communication regarding this matter goes through my attorney from now on. Her name is Pamela Harding. I love you. But I'm done being your savings account. 3 dots appear. Disappear. Appear again. Then nothing. I put my phone on the nightstand. I make a sandwich. I eat it standing at the counter in the apartment I moved into 2 weeks earlier. A 1-bedroom on Elm Street, $900 a month, no roommates, no lies, and a deadbolt I chose myself. It's the first home that's ever been completely mine. The rent goes to someone who calls it rent. 3 months later, Circuit Court. Courtroom 2B. The room is smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, an American flag hanging slightly crooked behind the bench. I sit on the right side with Pamela. I'm wearing a gray blazer I bought at the thrift store on Route 11 and the only pair of dress shoes I own. My parents sit on the left with their attorney, a man named Garrett Webb, mid-50s, hired on credit. Mom is in a blue dress I've seen at every family funeral for the past decade. Dad is in a sport coat that doesn't quite fit. Pamela presents the evidence methodically. The texts, printed, highlighted, dated. The emails, same. The voicemail, played through a small speaker. The judge listens with his hand under his chin. Ruth's sworn affidavit is entered into the record. So is Grandma's written statement confirming she heard Dale refer to the payments as savings at multiple family dinners. Garrett Webb makes his case. It was rent, a reasonable amount for room and board in the area. The judge turns to Dad. Mr. Morrison, did you ever use the words savings account when referring to your daughter's payments? Dad shifts in his seat. I might have, but it was just a figure of speech. A figure of speech. For 6 years. In text messages, in emails, on a voicemail. Dad says nothing. The judge turns to Mom. Mrs. Morrison, did you send your daughter a screenshot purporting to show a savings account balance? Mom's voice is barely audible. I was just trying to encourage her. You fabricated a financial document to encourage your daughter to continue paying you $2,000 a month. It isn't a question, but Connie nods anyway, slowly, like a woman who just realized the trapdoor was always under her feet. The judge picks up his pen. I'll issue my ruling in 2 weeks. 14 days. I don't sleep well for any of them. I work, I eat. I drive to the lab and back. I clean my apartment twice. I reorganize my kitchen cabinets by height. On a Tuesday afternoon, Pamela calls. We won, Myra, full amount. I'm sitting in my car outside the clinic. The engine is off. A sparrow is hopping across the parking lot. Full amount, I repeat. $144,000. The judge found clear evidence of promissory estoppel. Repayment ordered in monthly installments. $3,000 a month over 48 months. If they miss a payment, the court can enforce through wage garnishment or place a lien on their property. $3,000 a month. For 4 years. More than I ever paid them. Myra, you there? I'm here. You did the right thing. And you did it the right way. I hang up. I sit in the car for a long time. The sparrow is gone. Then I cry. Not the way I expected. Not triumph. Not relief. It's a strange, heavy cry. The kind that comes when something is finally over and you realize how long you were holding your breath. 6 years. $144,000. 22 pieces of evidence. 1 folder. 1 ruling. I call Aunt Ruth. She picks up on the first ring. We won, I say. She's quiet for a moment. Then, you didn't need me, honey. You had yourself. I needed you too. Well, she says, I'm glad I picked up the phone. I don't call Mom. I don't call Dad. I don't call Travis. I drive home to my apartment. I put the ruling letter on the refrigerator, under a magnet shaped like the state of Virginia. Then I make dinner. Just for one. And it's enough. Here's what happens when you lie to your daughter in a small town and lose in court. People talk. Not because they're cruel, because they know you. They know your truck. They know your pew at First Baptist. They know you fixed their water heater last March and charged $40 over the estimate. Within a month, Dale's plumbing business starts bleeding. Not fast, slow, the way a faucet drips when the washer's shot. Mrs. Kimball on Oak Street calls someone else for her bathroom remodel. The Turners go with a company out of Staunton for their new construction. Old Jean at the hardware store stops sending referrals. Nobody says why. They don't have to. Everyone was at Thanksgiving or knows someone who was. At church, Connie sits in the same pew, but the women who used to save her a seat don't anymore. They smile. They nod. They just don't scoot over. Grandma calls Connie once. You lied to that girl for 6 years, Connie, your own child. Then she stops calling. The Saturday lunches stop. The Sunday drop-bys stop. 80 years old. And she's done pretending. And then, there's Travis. Jenna doesn't leave him. But something shifts in their house on Miller Road. The house built on my payments. She takes over the finances. Opens a joint checking account. Insists on seeing every statement. Travis, for the first time in his marriage, doesn't control the money. You knew, she told him that Thanksgiving night. I didn't hear it. Ruth told me later. You knew, and you let me think we earned it. Travis didn't have an answer. Some things don't have one. Dale loses about 30% of his business over the next quarter. That's roughly $16,000 in revenue. He lets go of his part-time helper, a kid named Danny who'd been with him 2 summers. Consequences don't always roar. Sometimes they just quietly rearrange the furniture. The first payment arrives on the 15th of the month. Direct deposit. $3,000. I'm at the kitchen table in my apartment eating cereal before work when my phone buzzes with the bank notification. I stare at the number. $3,000. From Dale R. Morrison, the same man who laughed in my face. I set the phone down and finish my cereal. I wash the bowl. I dry it. I put it back in the cabinet. Then I pick the phone up again and look at the number one more time. This is the first honest money from my parents in 6 years. Here's what I know about how they're paying it. Aunt Ruth tells me some of it. The rest I piece together from the quiet channels of a small town. Dad sold his Ford F-250. The truck he bought new 3 years ago, the one with the toolboxes in the bed. Replaced it with a used F-150, 8 years old, 90,000 miles. Saved about $15,000 on the trade. Mom went full-time at the insurance office. First time in 20 years she's worked 40 hours a week. She comes home tired now, Ruth says. Goes to bed early. Travis offered to help cover the payments. Dad told him no. This is between me and your sister. Between me and your sister. Not between me and the court. Not between me and the mistake I made. Between me and your sister. Like it's a disagreement. Like it's a difference of opinion. He still can't say what it really was. But the money arrives. Every month. On the 15th. $3,000. 48 months total. I don't spend it. I put every dollar into a savings account. A real one. At a real bank. With my name on it and a routing number I can see anytime I want. Nobody manages it but me. 2 months after the ruling, I find an envelope in my mailbox. White. Handwritten. No return address, but I recognize the handwriting. The careful, slightly shaky cursive of a woman who learned penmanship in a one-room schoolhouse. Grandma. I carry it inside. I sit on my couch. I open it slowly, the way you open something you know you'll keep. Dear Myra, I've known about your mother's favoritism longer than you have. I saw it when you were 12 and she forgot your piano recital because Travis had a baseball game. I saw it when you graduated and the party was an afterthought. I didn't say anything because I told myself it was a phase, that she'd even out. I was wrong. What you did at Thanksgiving took more courage than anything I've seen in this family in 80 years. I know it cost you. I know it still costs you. But you stood in that room and told the truth when everyone else was comfortable with the lie. Your grandfather, God rest him, always said you were the tough one. Not tough because you fight. Tough because you know when to. I'm sorry I didn't speak sooner. I should have. That's on me. Love always, Grandma. I read it 3 times. The 3rd time, the words blur because my eyes won't stay dry. She knew. She always knew. And she stayed quiet to keep the peace. This letter isn't just love. It's an apology. From the one person in the family who never owed me one. And the only one brave enough to give it. I think about all the people in families who see the unfairness but say nothing because silence is easier than truth. If you've ever been that person, or if you've been waiting for someone to finally see what you see, I understand. Tell me your story in the comments. I tuck the letter into the manila folder. It sits beside the evidence now. The folder has 2 sections, proof and grace. 4 months after the ruling. A Thursday evening. I'm on the couch reading when my phone lights up. Dad. I stare at the screen through 2 full rings. My thumb hovers. Then I answer. Myra. His voice sounds different. Not smaller. Older. Like the past 4 months aged him in a way the previous 57 didn't. I'm not calling to argue, he says. I wait. I wanted to hear your voice. The line hums. I hear a television in the background, a recliner creaking. Your mother misses you. A pause. I don't know how to fix this. I close my book. I set it on the arm of the couch. Dad, fixing it starts with 1 word and you know which one. Silence. Long enough that I check to see if the call dropped. It hasn't. I'm sorry. His voice cracks on the 2nd word. Not dramatically. Just a hairline fracture. I don't even know when I started lying to myself. I let the words sit. I don't rush to accept them. I don't throw them back. I appreciate you saying that. So, can we... The payments continue, Dad, and I need you to understand something. I keep my voice even. Gentle, even, but firm. I love you, but I will never trust you with my money again. That boundary isn't going away. I know, he says, quietly. I know. We sit on the phone for another 10 seconds without speaking. Then he says goodnight. I say goodnight. We hang up. It's not a reconciliation. It's not a Hallmark ending. It's a 57-year-old man calling his daughter because her absence hurts more than his pride. And a 28-year-old woman letting him speak without letting him off the hook. It's what family looks like when you strip away the lies and see what's left. Sometimes what's left isn't much, but it's honest. So here's where I am now. I'm 28. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment on Elm Street. $900 a month. I picked the paint color myself. A pale blue that catches the morning light. Every month, $3,000 arrives in my bank account. My real bank account. With a routing number and a login and a balance I can check at 3 in the morning if I want to. I'm saving for a house. My house. On my timeline, in my name. My relationship with my parents exists. Barely. I call once a month. We talk about the weather, about Grandma's knees, about nothing that matters. We don't talk about the money. We don't talk about Thanksgiving. That conversation goes through Pamela now. Travis and I don't speak. Jenna sends me photos of Lily sometimes. At the playground, in a tutu, eating spaghetti with both hands. She always captions them. She asks about Aunt Myra. I see Aunt Ruth every Sunday. We eat lunch at her kitchen table. She makes soup. I bring bread. We don't always talk about what happened. Sometimes we just sit. I keep the manila folder in my closet. The evidence. Grandma's letter. The court ruling. I don't look at it often, but I know it's there. And knowing it's there is enough. If you're listening to this and you recognize any of it, the payments that never added up, the sibling who got more, the parent who said trust me one too many times, I want to tell you something. Setting a boundary with your family doesn't make you a bad daughter. It means you're a daughter who knows her worth. Your family is supposed to be your foundation. But when the foundation is cracked, you don't keep building on it. You pour a new one. And that's what I did. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it meant something to you, if it reminded you of your own table, your own folder, your own moment of enough, hit subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you want another story like this one, about an ordinary person who finally said enough, check the link in the description. I'll see you there. Thank you for listening. I mean that. Let's see if you're even mine, my father said, sliding a DNA test kit across the Thanksgiving table, past the cranberry sauce, past the gravy boat, straight into my plate. 25 relatives laughed. My brother high-fived him. My mother stared at her wine glass like it held the answers to everything she'd been hiding for 30 years. I didn't cry. I didn't leave. I picked up the kit, looked my father in the eye, and said one word. Okay. 3 weeks later, the results came back. I emailed them to every single person at that table. My mother fainted. My father dropped his fork. Because the test proved I was his only biological child, and the golden boy he'd given everything to wasn't his at all. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. And drop a comment. Where are you watching from right now? And what time is it where you are? My name is Caroline Mitchell. I'm 28 years old. I'm a pediatric ICU nurse in a small hospital outside Richmond, Virginia. And this is the story of how my father's cruelest joke became the truth that set me free. Now let me take you back to Thanksgiving, last November, the night everything changed. The Mitchell family. Thanksgiving was never a casual affair. My father, Richard Mitchell, Rick to everyone who feared him and pretended not to, hosted it every year at the house on Briarwood Lane, a 4,000-square-foot colonial he'd built with his own crew back in 2003. That was the thing about Dad. Everything he owned, he made sure you knew he'd earned it. The dining table was a 10-foot slab of reclaimed Virginia oak, purchased from an antique dealer in Stowe, Vermont. 12 chairs, hand-turned spindles. My father sat at the head. My brother Garrett sat to his right, in the chair that had GM carved into the backrest. Dad did that when Garrett was 6, like some kind of coronation. I sat at the far end, near the kitchen door, the seat closest to the serving platters because, well, someone had to refill them. 25 people filled that room. Aunts, uncles, cousins, Garrett's wife, and their 4-year-old son Mason. My father wore his Breitling Navy timer, the one he bought himself when Mitchell and Sons Construction cleared its first $1 million year. Garrett had new Cole Haan loafers. My mother, Jolene, wore her cream-colored Talbot's blazer and her Mikimoto pearl bracelet, the one Dad gave her for their 25th anniversary. An anniversary dinner I wasn't invited to. I wore a cardigan I'd had since nursing school. Gray, pilled at the elbows. Here's the thing you'd notice if you looked at the Mitchells gathered around that table. Every single one of them was blonde. Sandy blonde, honey blonde, platinum blonde. And then there was me. Auburn hair, reddish in the light, dark enough to stand out in every family photo like a typo in a legal document. My father had spent 20 years treating that typo like proof, but Thanksgiving this year, Dad brought something to the table that wasn't on the menu. Let me give you 20 years in 60 seconds. When I was 8, I made a Father's Day card. Construction paper, glitter glue, the works. I wrote, "To the best dad in the world," in my very best cursive. He opened it at the breakfast table, read it, and tore it in half, right down the middle. "I'm not your dad," he said. Then he went back to his eggs. I was 8. When I was 14, Dad enrolled Garrett in St. Andrew's Prep. $12,000 a year, blazers and ties, the whole production. I went to Hopewell Public. When Aunt Brenda asked why, Dad said it out loud, right there at Sunday dinner. Why would I invest in something that might not even be mine? I sat 3 feet away. Nobody said a word. When I was 18, I graduated high school. Valedictorian. Top of my class. 4.3 GPA, a speech I practiced 40 times in front of my bathroom mirror. Dad didn't come. He was at home, setting up a barbecue for 50 people. A party for Garrett, who'd graduated with a 2.4 and a handshake from the football coach. When I was 22, halfway through my nursing program at VCU, Dad cut my tuition without warning. 1 semester left. He called and said, "I've been paying for someone else's kid long enough." I took out $47,000 in federal student loans. I finished. He never asked if I finished. My mother. I should tell you about her role in all this. Once, when I was 19, I found out she'd been sending me $200 a month. Quietly. Through Venmo. Under the memo, groceries. Then Dad found the transfers. He threatened divorce. She stopped. My father didn't hate me. Hate requires acknowledgement. He simply subtracted me. Now let me tell you about Garrett. Garrett Mitchell. 31, 6'2", sandy blonde, jaw like a catalog model. Dad's pride, Dad's proof. The Mitchell heir, capital H. At 16, Garrett got a brand new F-150. Pearl white, lifted suspension, Mitchell & Sons decal on the tailgate like a family crest. I got a bus pass. Dad paid every cent of Garrett's college tuition at Virginia Tech. 4 years. No loans, no questions. When Garrett graduated, middling grades, business degree he barely used, Dad gave him a corner office at Mitchell & Sons and the title of project manager. No interview, no resume, just bloodline. Or what Dad believed was bloodline. Last spring, Garrett bought a house. New construction in the Willowbrook subdivision. 3,200 square feet, open floor plan, quartz countertops. Dad put down the $80,000 deposit. Just wrote a check. I live in a studio apartment 4 blocks from the hospital, 450 square feet. The kitchen counter doubles as my desk. When I come home from a 12-hour ICU shift, I eat standing up because the table barely fits 1 chair. Garrett drives a black Chevy Tahoe. I drive a 2014 Honda Civic with a dent in the rear bumper from a parking lot in nursing school. It still runs. That's enough. Now here's the thing about Garrett. He's not evil. I want to be fair about that. He didn't grow up thinking he was doing anything wrong. When you're handed everything from birth, you don't question the system. You just assume you deserve it. His favorite line, delivered with that easy golden boy grin, "Don't worry, Cal. You'll always be an honorary Mitchell." Honorary, like a guest pass to my own family. But here's the part that'll make you laugh. Or maybe not. The irony. I'll get to it. You're not ready yet. My mother, Jolene Mitchell, 54. Blonde highlights every 6 weeks at a salon in Short Pump, Lexus RX in champagne gold. A supplementary credit card on Dad's Amex Platinum that she used like oxygen. Jolene was not a cruel woman. That's what made it worse. She never called me a mistake. She never tore up my cards or refused to attend my graduation. She just didn't stop any of it. Every time Dad said something cutting, Mom studied her wine glass, or her napkin, or the pattern on the wallpaper. She perfected the art of looking at nothing while everything happened right in front of her. When I was 16, I asked her directly. We were alone in the kitchen after Thanksgiving. Fitting, isn't it? And I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Mom, am I Dad's daughter?" She didn't blink. She set down the dish towel and she said, "Don't ask questions you don't want answers to." That sentence lived inside me for 12 years. I turned it over and over like a stone in my pocket, wearing it smooth, trying to figure out what it meant. Was she confirming Dad's suspicion? Was she warning me? Was she protecting herself? It took me 12 years to realize the answer was the third one. Mom lived well. The Briarwood house, the Lexus, the Mikimoto bracelet. the country club membership, the annual trip to Hilton Head. All of it depended on one thing: Rick Mitchell staying married to her. And Rick Mitchell would only stay married to her as long as certain questions stayed unasked. One evening, about a month before Thanksgiving, I stopped by the house to pick up a box of old family photos. Mom was on the couch, phone in hand, deleting a text thread. She closed it fast when she saw me. Too fast. I didn't ask who it was. Not then. Thanksgiving dinner, 8:17 p.m. The turkey had been carved. The wine was flowing. A Caymus Cabernet Dad always overpaid for because he liked saying the name. Garrett was telling a story about a job site, something about a concrete pour and a foreman who couldn't handle pressure. Dad laughed with his whole chest. Mom smiled on cue. I was passing the sweet potatoes when Dad stood up. He tapped his knife against his glass. The room quieted. 25 faces turned toward him, and I swear he looked like a man about to give a toast at his own coronation. "I got a little gift for Callie this year," he said. He reached under his chair and pulled out a box, white and green, a home DNA testing kit. He held it up so everyone could see, then slid it down the table toward me. It knocked against my water glass. "Let's see if you're even mine." The room erupted. Laughter. The loud, relieved kind that comes when people are uncomfortable, but choose the easy side. Uncle Dennis chuckled into his bourbon. Aunt Brenda looked away. Garrett slapped the table. "Savage, Dad." Jolene went white. I watched her fingers tighten around the stem of her glass until I thought it would snap. But she didn't say a word. She never did. I picked up the box. The room got quiet again. A different quiet. I looked at my father. His eyes were bright with amusement. He expected tears, I think. Or maybe a door slam. 20 years of data told him I'd crumble. "Okay," I said. "That's all. Just, okay." I put the kid in my bag. I finished my dinner. I said goodnight to Aunt Brenda. I drove home to my studio apartment, alone, in my dented Civic. And I sat at my kitchen counter and opened the box. It wasn't what I needed. A consumer ancestry kit tests ethnicity, not paternity. But it gave me the idea. That same night, I ordered a paternity test from an AABB-accredited laboratory. Real chain of custody, real results, results that mean something. I needed 2 samples. Mine was easy. A cheek swab, sealed, labeled. Rick's? He'd left something behind. On the chair where I'd been sitting, his monogrammed handkerchief. Linen. Initials RAM in navy thread. He'd used it to dab wine off his chin and tossed it aside without a thought. I sealed it in a plastic bag. Mailed both samples the next morning. Nobody knew. You wanted the truth, Dad. So did I. The group chat lit up before I even got out of my scrubs the next morning. The Mitchell family group, 42 members, created by Dad 5 years ago, primarily used for holiday logistics and Garrett's construction updates that nobody asked for. That morning, it had a new purpose. Dad had posted a photo. It was me, from the night before, holding the DNA kit at the table. I don't know who took it. Someone's phone, angled from across the room. My face was half turned, mouth slightly open. I looked stunned. Vulnerable. His caption, "Let's see if the mailman left more than just letters." Garrett replied first. 3 laughing emojis. Then, "DNA don't lie, Dad." Uncle Pete. "Oh man, Rick." Cousin Tara. A single. Which I guess counts as dissent in the Mitchell family. Nobody said, "That was cruel." Nobody said, "Rick, she's your daughter." Nobody said anything at all that resembled defense. 42 people. 42 witnesses to a public joke about my parentage. And the only response was laughter or silence. I read it all at 2:47 a.m., sitting in the break room of the pediatric ICU, fluorescent light buzzing overhead. I'd just come off a code. A 3-year-old with RSV, touch and go for 40 minutes before we stabilized her. My hands still smelled like nitrile gloves. And there it was, on my phone, between a notification about my student loan payment and a weather alert. I screenshotted every message, every emoji, every silence. Dana Reeves, my coworker, my closest friend, the only person at that hospital who knew about my family. She saw my face when I put the phone down. She didn't ask what was wrong. She just looked at me and said, "Get the facts, Callie. Then let the facts do the talking." I locked my phone. I went back to my patient. The lab had my samples. The clock was ticking. 3 weeks before Christmas, my phone rang. Dad. No greeting. No warmth. Just, "Christmas is for family. You know where you stand." He hung up before I could respond. 16 seconds. I know because I checked the call log afterward, staring at it like the number might explain something the words didn't. Garrett texted an hour later. Classic Garrett, performing kindness while enforcing the verdict. "No hard feelings, Cal. It's Dad's house. His rules. Maybe next year things will be different." Then came Mom. Her message wasn't comfort. It wasn't an apology. It was, "Please don't make this worse." 3 messages from 3 Mitchells. Not one of them said, "This is wrong." Not one said, "I'm sorry." The only thing they agreed on was that my absence would make everyone's holiday more comfortable. So I spent Christmas Eve alone. I bought a small Douglas fir from the lot on Patterson Avenue. 4 feet tall, $60 I probably shouldn't have spent. I propped it on my kitchen counter, next to my laptop and a stack of patient charts. I made mac and cheese from a box. I poured 1 glass of wine, a $7 Merlot, not Camus. And I sat in my 1 chair, and I ate. Outside, Richmond was cold and clear. Through the window, I could see the apartment building across the street, their windows glowing with colored lights and the shapes of people moving behind curtains. At 11:43 p.m., I opened my email. There it was. Subject line, "Your DNA test results are ready. Action required." From the lab, dated that afternoon. My thumb hovered over it. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. I closed the email. Not yet. I finished my wine. I turned off the lights. I went to bed. The results would still be there in the morning, and so would I. January 6th. The email arrived at 9:14 a.m. from Richard A. Mitchell to Mitchell Family. Distribution list. CC, Caroline Mitchell. Subject, Estate Planning Update. Formal reading. January 18th. The body was short. Dad wrote the way he built houses. Blunt, load-bearing, no ornamentation. I've been working with my attorney Howard Pratt to finalize my estate plan. After careful consideration, I've decided that Mitchell assets, property, business shares, and financial holdings should pass exclusively to my biological children. A formal reading will take place January 18th at Howard Pratt's office, 10 a.m. Attendance is expected. Signature block, Richard A. Mitchell, Mitchell & Sons Construction, LLC, established 1998. Garrett replied all within 4 minutes. "Thanks, Dad, the right call." Nobody else replied, but I know they all read it. 42 people, 42 silences. He'd CC'd me, not BCC'd, CC'd. He wanted me to see it. He wanted me to know that this wasn't just a dinner table insult or a group chat joke anymore. It was being made legal, official, permanent. Biological children. 2 words that were supposed to be my eviction notice. I read the email 3 times. Then I read it a 4th time, slower, and something clicked. A door I hadn't known was there swung open in my mind. Biological children. If I was Rick's biological child, and a lab somewhere in Maryland was about to tell me whether I was, then that language didn't exclude me. It protected me. And if I was his biological child, and the will only covered biological children, then the real question wasn't about me at all. It was about Garrett. I closed my laptop. I went to work. I intubated a 6-year-old with pneumonia, and I didn't think about the email again until my shift ended 14 hours later. But it sat there, waiting, like everything else. January 9th. I went to Garrett's house to pick up a box of old family photos Mom said she'd left in his garage. Garrett wasn't home. His wife, Stacy, let me in. Polite but distant, The way you'd treat a distant relative at a funeral. She pointed me toward the garage and went back to the kitchen. Mason was in the living room, 4 years old. Blonde curls, Garrett's grin, a dinosaur in each hand. He looked up when I walked past and said, with the casual brutality only a child can deliver, "Daddy says you're not real family. You don't belong here." He said it the way he might say the sky is blue. No malice, just information he'd absorbed the way children absorb everything. From the adults who shape their world. I stopped walking. It wasn't the words. I'd heard worse from his grandfather. It was the realization that I was watching it start over. A new generation, learning the same lie, repeating it with the same easy confidence. Mason would grow up believing his aunt was an outsider, just like Garrett had, and his children after him. I knelt down. "Sweetie, family isn't about what people say. It's about what's true." Mason blinked at me, then went back to his dinosaurs. He'd already forgotten it. I hadn't. I took the box of photos, thanked Stacy, and sat in my Civic for 10 minutes with the engine off. The heater ticked as it cooled. My breath fogged the windshield. Then I opened my phone. I opened my email. I tapped on the subject line I'd been avoiding since Christmas. Probability of paternity, 99.9998%. Richard A. Mitchell is the biological father of Caroline R. Mitchell. I read it twice, 3 times. 4. And I thought about a question I want to ask you. Have you ever been in a moment where the truth could destroy everything, but you needed to know anyway? Where not knowing was worse than any fallout? Because that's where I was, sitting in a dented Civic in my brother's driveway, hands shaking, the heater dead, the screen glowing in my lap. I'd love to hear your story. Drop it in the comments. I closed the email, I put the car in reverse, and I drove to work. But something had changed. The stone I'd carried in my pocket for 12 years. Don't ask questions you don't want answers to. I finally understood what it meant. And it wasn't about me. It was never about me. I sat with the results for 3 days, not because I doubted them. The lab was AABB accredited, the gold standard for paternity testing in the United States, chain of custody documented, results notarized, 99.9998%. In science, that's as close to certainty as you get without witnessing the moment of conception. Number 1. I sat with them because of what they meant. I was Rick Mitchell's daughter, his biological daughter. The child he'd called a mistake for 20 years, the one he'd starved of tuition and presence and basic decency. I was his. I had always been his, which meant the affair my mother had, the one Dad had been punishing me for since I was 8, didn't produce me. It produced someone else. I thought about Mom's face at the Thanksgiving table when Dad slid that kit toward me, the way she went white, the way her fingers strangled the wine glass. She wasn't embarrassed for me. She was terrified for herself. Because she knew, she'd always known, that if anyone in that family actually took a DNA test, the lie wouldn't hold. Not her lie about me. Her lie about Garrett. Don't ask questions you don't want answers to. She wasn't protecting me from a painful truth. She was protecting Garrett from a devastating one, and she was protecting herself from the only consequence she truly feared. Rick finding out that his golden boy, his heir, his proudly carved chair firstborn son, carried another man's DNA. I thought about calling her. I picked up the phone twice. Both times I put it down. What would I say? "Mom, I know?" She'd deny it. She'd cry. She'd beg me not to tell. And I would be right back where I'd always been, holding someone else's secret, swallowing someone else's shame, keeping the peace at my own expense. Not this time. I called a lawyer instead. Margaret Foley's office was on Main Street in Mechanicsville, a narrow brick building between a barbershop and a CPA firm. 2nd floor, no elevator. Her desk was buried under case files and a half-eaten granola bar, and the bookshelves behind her sagged with Virginia estate law volumes thick enough to stop a bullet. I found her the way most people find lawyers these days. Google. Estate attorney, Richmond, Virginia. She was the 3rd result. The reviews said she was thorough, fair, and wouldn't waste your time. What I didn't know, walking in, was that Margaret Foley had gone to James Madison University with my mother, class of 1991. They'd lost touch decades ago. Margaret mentioned it offhand when I gave my last name. Mitchell? Any relation to Jolene Hargrove? And then moved on without pressing. Professional. I liked that. I showed her the DNA results. I showed her the email Dad sent about the will. Assets to biological children only. I showed her the screenshots from the family group chat. She read everything twice, drank her coffee black, and didn't speak until she was done. The language is clear, she said. If his will states that assets pass to biological children, and you can prove you're his biological child, you have a legal claim. A strong one. And if someone else in the family isn't his biological child? She set down her coffee. Then, under the exact language your father chose, that person would have no claim at all. Silence. You'd need more than a home test for court, she continued. But here's the thing. You may not need court. Once your father sees these results, he's going to demand a retest. And when he does, he'll test everyone. That's how men like him operate. They don't stop digging until the ground swallows them. I nodded. You realize this will blow up your entire family, she said. I looked at her across that cluttered desk, the winter light coming through the blinds in pale stripes, and I said, it was never whole to begin with. January 14th, 4 days before the reading. Dad called. Not to reconcile, not to reconsider. To remind me of my place. The reading's on Saturday. I invited you because I want you to hear it from Howard, in person, that you're not getting a dime. Don't come in there crying. Don't come in there begging. And don't embarrass this family any more than you already have. I held the phone away from my ear and watched the seconds tick on the screen. He talked for 2 minutes and 11 seconds. I said 4 words. I'll be there, Dad. He hung up first. He always did. Garrett's text came 20 minutes later. Cal, just accept it. Dad's not going to change. Take the L gracefully. Take the L. Like my entire existence was a scoreboard. Then Mom. Her call came at 9 p.m., her voice low and shaky the way it gets after her second glass of Pinot Grigio. Caroline, please, just don't come. It'll be easier for everyone. Easier for everyone. The Mitchell family motto. I didn't respond to any of them. I put my phone on the charger, poured a glass of water, and stood at my apartment window looking out at the dark parking lot below. My Civic under the streetlight, the frost on the windshield. I was on break between shifts. In 6 hours, I'd be back in the ICU checking ventilator settings on a child who weighed less than my winter coat. I'd be calm, precise, necessary. I'd make decisions that mattered, measured in oxygen levels and heart rates and milligrams. And then in 4 days, I'd walk into a room full of people who'd spent my whole life telling me I didn't matter, and I'd let a piece of paper say what I never could. Dana was right. Let the facts do the talking. January 15th. 3 days out. I met Margaret at her office after my shift. She had the notarized copies ready. 3 sets of the DNA results, each in a sealed envelope, each bearing the lab's certification stamp and her notary seal. Clean. Official. The kind of paperwork that doesn't need a raised voice to make its point. I also pulled the draft will your father emailed, she said, adjusting her reading glasses. He CC'd you on it, which means it's not privileged. And there's something you should know. She turned her laptop toward me. This will hasn't been executed. No signatures, no witnesses. Under Virginia law, it's a statement of intent. Nothing more. Which means his previous will, the one filed 3 years ago, is still the operative document. What does the old will say? Standard language. Assets divided equally among my children. No biological qualifier, no DNA requirement. I leaned back. So, even if he tries to sign the new one, if he signs it, and it holds up to challenge, it says biological children only, and we both know what that means for you. She paused. Either way, Caroline, you're protected. The old will includes you. The new will, if he's foolish enough to sign it, Includes only you. She let that sit. I drafted an email that night. Recipients. Every address in the Mitchell family distribution list. Attached. The DNA results. Subject line left blank for now. I saved it in my drafts folder and closed my laptop. Plan B. Just in case. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went shopping. Not at a thrift store, not at Target. I drove to a consignment boutique in Carytown and bought a navy blazer, tailored trousers, and a pair of leather Oxford shoes. $140 total, more than I usually spent on clothes in 3 months. Dana helped me practice that evening. Not what to say, what not to say. You don't owe them an explanation, she told me over reheated hospital cafeteria soup. You walk in, you sit down, you wait for the right moment, and you put the envelope on the table. That's it. Let the paper talk. I nodded. For the first time in 20 years, I wasn't walking into a Mitchell family event hoping to survive it. I was walking in prepared. January 17th, the night before. I couldn't sleep. Not from fear. Not exactly. It was something closer to vertigo. That feeling when you're standing at the edge of a high place and your body knows before your brain does that everything on the other side will be different. I sat on my bed with a shoebox of old photos. Most of them were from before Dad decided I wasn't his. There was one I kept coming back to. Me at 5 years old, sitting on his lap in the backyard. Both of us laughing. His arms around me, my head tipped back, the sun behind us. That was the last time he held me. I was 5. I don't remember what was funny. I just remember feeling safe. I stared at that photo for a long time. Tomorrow, I would walk into a room and end my family as it existed, not destroy it. It was already destroyed, had been for 20 years. We just hadn't admitted it. But end the version of it that everyone had agreed to perform. The version where Dad was the righteous patriarch, where Garrett was the worthy heir, where Mom was the loyal wife, where I was the mistake. All of it, done, because of a piece of paper in my bag. I called Dana at 11. Am I doing the right thing? She didn't hesitate. Are they doing the right thing to you? Silence. Callie, that man humiliated you in front of your entire family on a holiday. He's trying to legally erase you. Your brother treats you like a footnote. Your mother watched all of it and chose her comfort over your dignity. For 20 years. She took a breath. You didn't start this. You're just the one brave enough to finish it. I hung up. I opened my laptop. The DNA results glowed on the screen. 99.9998%. I closed it. I placed the notarized envelope in my bag, the navy tote I'd bought to match the blazer, and set it by the door. I turned off the light. I didn't sleep. But I was ready. January 18th, 9:47 a.m. Howard Pratt's office was in a red brick professional building on Broad Street, the kind of place that smelled like old carpet and authority. Second floor. Berber carpet, walnut wainscoting, framed diplomas arranged with surgical precision. I arrived 13 minutes early. Deliberate. I wanted to be seated before anyone else walked in. The conference room was long and narrow. A walnut table, 12 leather chairs, a window overlooking the parking lot. Howard Pratt's assistant offered me water. I took it, set it on a coaster, set my bag on the floor beside my chair, the envelope inside. They arrived in clusters. Uncle Dennis and Aunt Brenda first, quiet, nodding at me with the careful politeness of people who know something is about to go wrong. Then cousins I hadn't spoken to since last Thanksgiving. Then Garrett and Stacy, Garrett in a sport coat that probably cost more than my rent, Stacy in heels clicking on the hardwood. 15 people total. Not the whole family, but the ones who mattered. The inner circle. Dad came in last. Of course he did. Rick Mitchell didn't enter a room. He occupied it. Charcoal blazer, starched white shirt, the Breitling catching the overhead light. He sat at the head of the table. Garrett slid into the chair at his right. Mom sat to his left, eyes already red-rimmed, fingers working the clasp of her Mikimoto bracelet like a rosary. Dad saw me and paused. "Surprised you showed up," he said. I didn't answer. I folded my hands on the table. I was wearing the navy blazer, the tailored trousers, the leather Oxfords. My hair was pulled back. No earrings. No makeup except a clean line of red lipstick, because Dana had told me, half joking, armor comes in all forms. Howard Pratt entered with a leather binder. He sat at the opposite end from Dad, cleared his throat. "This is a formality, Callie," Dad said across the table, loud enough for the room. "You're here as a courtesy, nothing more." I met his eyes. I said nothing. Howard opened the binder. Howard Pratt was a careful man. Mid-60s, wire-rimmed glasses, the kind of lawyer who read every clause aloud because he'd once seen what happened when someone didn't. He opened the binder, adjusted his glasses, and began. "This document represents the stated testamentary intentions of Richard Allen Mitchell, prepared in consultation with this office, dated January 3rd of this year." "Skip the preamble, Howard," Dad said. "Get to it." Howard glanced at him, then nodded. He flipped a page. "Article 4, Section 1, Distribution of Assets. All real property, business interests, and financial assets held by Richard Allen Mitchell shall pass exclusively to his biological children, as verified by legally recognized documentation upon the date of his passing." Dad leaned back in his chair and looked at me. Not with anger, with satisfaction, the look of a man who's just nailed the final board on a fence. "See?" he said. "Black and white." Garrett nodded. "It's just business, Cal." A few relatives shifted in their seats. Aunt Brenda pressed her lips together. Uncle Dennis studied the grain of the table. Nobody spoke. Howard continued, detailing the breakdown: the Briarwood house, the Mitchell and Sons shares, the investment accounts, the life insurance. $3.2 million in total estimated value. All of it directed to biological children. The phrase repeated like a hammer stroke. Biological children, biological children, biological children. And every time he said it, Dad's chin lifted a fraction higher. When Howard finished, he removed his glasses and folded his hands. "This document remains in draft form and requires execution, signatures, and witnesses to become legally binding. However, Mr. Mitchell wished to share his intentions with the family prior to finalization." He looked around the room. "Are there any questions or objections?" Silence. Dad smiled. The room exhaled. My hand moved to my bag. "I have an objection." My voice came out steadier than I expected. Low, clear. The kind of voice I use at 3 a.m., when a ventilator alarm goes off, and a room full of panicking parents needs someone to be calm. Every head turned. Dad's smile didn't drop. It froze. "Excuse me?" "Not emotional," I said. "Procedural." I stood, walked to the conference room door, opened it. Margaret Foley stepped in. Gray pantsuit, reading glasses on a chain, a leather portfolio under her arm. She'd been waiting in the hallway for 11 minutes. We'd timed it. "Who the hell is this?" Dad said. "My name is Margaret Foley. I'm an estate attorney licensed in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I represent Caroline Mitchell." The room went very still. "You hired a lawyer?" Dad's voice pitched upward. Not angry yet, but close. The way a thunderstorm sounds before the first crack. "For what?" "There's nothing to contest. You're not—" "Mr. Mitchell." Margaret's voice cut clean. "Your draft will states that assets pass to biological children only. We'd like to submit documentation relevant to that clause." She nodded at me. I reached into my bag. My fingers found the envelope. Smooth, sealed, the notary stamp slightly raised under my thumb. I'd carried it for 3 days. It weighed almost nothing. It weighed everything. I set it on the table, centered, right between the water pitcher and the leather binder. 15 people stared at it. Mom's breathing changed. I could hear it from across the room. Shallow, fast, the way patients breathe when they know bad news is coming before the doctor opens their mouth. I looked at my father. "You wanted to know if I was yours, Dad?" You asked me at Thanksgiving. In front of the whole family, you gave me a DNA kit. You made it a joke. I pushed the envelope 1 inch toward him. I took the test. Here are the results. Margaret opened the envelope with the practiced calm of someone who'd done this 100 times. She removed 3 stapled pages, scanned the room, and read aloud. Paternity test conducted by Genelink Diagnostics, an AABB-accredited laboratory in Bethesda, Maryland. Test subjects: Richard Allen Mitchell, alleged father; Caroline Rose Mitchell, child. Samples received December 2nd. Analysis completed December 19th. She paused. The room was so quiet I could hear the furnace cycling through the vents. Conclusion: based on analysis of genetic markers, the probability of paternity is 99.9998%. Richard Allen Mitchell is the biological father of Caroline Rose Mitchell. She set the paper down. Dad stared at it like it was written in a language he'd forgotten. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. That's not possible. The lab is federally accredited, Margaret said evenly. Results are notarized. Chain of custody is documented. I have 2 additional certified copies if you'd like your own attorney to review them. Garrett shot forward in his chair. She faked it. She had to have faked it. There's no way. Mr. Mitchell. Margaret didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. AABB accreditation is the standard used by U.S. courts for paternity determination. These results are as reliable as a test ordered by a judge. Garrett's mouth worked, but nothing came out. Mom hadn't moved. Her hands were flat on the table. Her eyes were fixed on the paper. Her face, I'll never forget this. Her face held the expression of a person watching a building collapse in slow motion, knowing they were inside it. Dad turned to Howard Pratt. Howard, can she do this? Howard removed his glasses. Rick, the results appear legitimate. I didn't ask for a recommendation. Mr. Mitchell. Margaret folded her hands. Before you request a retest, which you're entitled to, you may want to consider testing all of your children. Given what we now know, it seems prudent. The word landed like a grenade with a delayed fuse. All. Dad looked at Garrett, then at Mom, then back at me. And for the first time in 20 years, I watched my father's certainty crack. I didn't say it. I want to be clear about that. I didn't say, Garrett isn't your son. I didn't say, Mom had an affair. I didn't accuse anyone of anything. I didn't need to. The math was already doing the work. You could see it moving through the room like a current, face by face, chair by chair. If Callie is Rick's daughter and Rick has believed for 20 years that his wife cheated, then who was the product of the affair? I kept my voice level. I'm your biological child, Dad. The test confirms it. Now, if you'd like to proceed with a will that leaves everything to your biological children, I fully support that. The sentence sat there like a lit match on dry grass. Garrett stood up. What the hell is she implying? I looked at him. I'm not implying anything, Garrett. I'm presenting facts. Dad taught me that's what Mitchells do. His face went red. Not embarrassed red, but furious red. The kind that starts at the collar and climbs. He turned to Mom. Tell her she's wrong. Mom, tell her. Jolene didn't look at him. She was staring at the table, both hands pressed flat like she was trying to hold it together physically, molecularly. Rick. Her voice came out broken. We need to talk privately. Sit down, Jolene. Dad's voice was a blade. He hadn't moved from his chair. But something behind his eyes had shifted. A tectonic slide. Slow and irreversible. He was looking at Garrett the way he'd spent 20 years looking at me. Aunt Brenda leaned forward. Rick, what is going on? Uncle Dennis put a hand on the table. Everyone let's take a breath. But nobody took a breath. The room was holding one. Jolene started crying. Not the quiet kind. The kind that sounds like something inside has finally given way. A levee. A wall. A lie held together with 30 years of silence and a Mikimoto bracelet. She was crying because she was scared. And everyone in that room could feel it. Dad turned to her. Slow. The way a man turns when he already knows the answer but needs to hear it out loud. The way you need to hear the doctor say the word even though the scan is right there on the screen. Is there something you need to tell me, Jolene? She shook her head. Then she stopped shaking it. Then she covered her face with both hands, and the Mikimoto bracelet slid down her wrist and clattered against the walnut table. Rick. It was before Callie was born. It was... Who? Greg Nolan. The name landed like a stone in still water. I watched it ripple outward. Aunt Brenda's hand flew to her mouth. Uncle Dennis closed his eyes. Two cousins exchanged a glance so fast you'd miss it if you blinked. Greg Nolan. The name meant something to the older Mitchells. He'd been a subcontractor for Mitchell & Sons in the early 90s. Framing crew, back when Dad was still building the business out of a pickup truck. He'd been around the family, around the house, around Jolene. It was one time, Mom whispered. One time, Rick. Early 94. You were gone for 3 months on that Chesapeake Bay project, and I was alone. And... Early 94. Dad's voice was flat, mechanical. He was doing the math. Everyone was doing the math. Garrett was born in October of 1994. The room understood before Garrett did. I could see it in their faces. The slow, awful dawning, the way people look when they realize a story they've believed their whole lives was built on sand. Garrett stared at Mom. What are you saying? Mom? What are you saying? She couldn't look at him. She couldn't look at any of us. Her head dropped, and her shoulders folded inward, and she whispered, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Dad's fist hit the table. Not hard enough to break anything. Hard enough to rattle every glass. Greg Nolan? His voice cracked on the name. The guy who poured my foundations? Nobody answered. Nobody could. Garrett was standing now, both hands on the table, leaning forward like a man bracing against a wave he couldn't see. No. His voice was high, tight, stripped of every ounce of golden boy ease. No, that's a lie. Dad, tell her she's lying. Tell her. Dad didn't tell her anything. He was looking at Garrett. Really looking. Maybe for the first time in 31 years. And I watched something shift behind his eyes. The same narrowing, the same cold appraisal, the same suspicion he'd aimed at me across dining tables and holiday dinners and group chat captions for 2 decades. He was measuring Garrett the way he'd always measured me. I'm your son, Garrett said. I look just like you. Everyone says, Dad, everyone says I look just like you. Dad's voice came out quiet, almost a whisper. You look like Greg. Garrett flinched like he'd been struck. And the room did something I'll never forget. Every set of eyes moved to the framed family portrait hanging on Howard Pratt's wall. Not our portrait, Howard's. But it didn't matter because the Mitchells were all picturing the same image. The Christmas card photo from 2019, the one Mom sent to 150 people. Rick, Jolene, Garrett, all blonde. And me, the auburn-haired girl standing slightly apart. Like she'd been photoshopped in from a different family. Except now the picture read differently. Aunt Brenda was the one who said it. Softly, almost to herself. Oh my God. The hair. Callie has Rick's mother's hair. She was right. Grandma Elaine Mitchell, Dad's mother, who passed when I was 3, had auburn hair. Dark red, almost mahogany. I'd seen it in photographs but never made the connection because nobody had ever let me make it. Nobody had ever said, You look like your grandmother, Callie. That line was reserved for Garrett. You look just like your dad. Except he didn't. He never had. The room was unraveling. Garrett shoved his chair back and paced to the window, hands clasped behind his neck, breathing hard. Stacy reached for him. He pulled away. Mom was slumped in her chair, barely conscious. Aunt Brenda had one arm around her, fanning her face with a legal pad. Howard Pratt sat perfectly still, pen frozen above his binder, the face of a man watching his billable hour turn into a bonfire. Dad hadn't moved. He sat at the head of the table with his hands flat on the walnut surface, staring at the DNA report like it was a mirror showing a face he didn't recognize. I stood up. Not fast, not dramatic. The way I stand up in the ICU when I have information a family needs to hear. Steady. Present. Dad. He didn't look up. For 20 years, you called me a mistake. You tore up the Father's Day card I made when I was 8. You didn't come to my graduation. You cut my tuition and let me take on $47,000 in loans. You posted about me in the family group chat like I was a punchline. You handed me a DNA kit at Thanksgiving in front of 25 people and dared me to prove I belonged. I paused. And now that kit, your joke, proves that I was your only biological child this entire time. The daughter you threw away was the one who was real, and the son you gave everything to. I stopped. Because I'm not cruel. Because Garrett was at the window and his shoulders were shaking, and whatever he was, whatever he'd done, he didn't choose this any more than I did. I didn't come here to take anyone's money, I said. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here because you summoned me. You wanted the truth read out loud in front of the family. So here it is. I looked at him, at the Breitling on his wrist, at the hands that built a company and tore up a child's card with equal ease. I don't need your money. I don't need your name. I just needed you to know that your cruelest joke told the truth you were too afraid to find. I sat down. The room was silent except for my mother's quiet sobbing and the sound of the furnace cycling through the vents. Nobody looked at my father. Everybody looked at me. Aunt Brenda moved first. She stood up, slowly, like a woman who'd just made a decision she should have made a long time ago, crossed the room and put her arms around me. Not a polite hug. A real one. The kind that says I see you and I'm sorry without using either phrase. I should have said something years ago, she whispered against my shoulder. I watched him do this to you, and I said nothing. I'm sorry, Callie. Uncle Dennis cleared his throat. He was looking at Dad, and his expression wasn't sympathy. It was something harder than that. Rick, what have you done? Dad didn't answer. Cousin Tara, the one who'd sent the single grimacing emoji in the group chat, stood up and walked to my side of the table. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, next to Brenda, next to me. A quiet vote. Others followed. Not all of them. Some stared at the table. Some studied their phones. But enough of them, 5, then 6, then 8, shifted their weight, their chairs, their attention toward the end of the room where I sat. The end near the door, the end near the kitchen. The seat I'd been assigned my whole life. Howard Pratt closed his binder. He removed his glasses and spoke with the measured gravity of a man choosing his words for a legal record. Mr. Mitchell, I strongly advise you to postpone any further action on this estate plan until the relevant facts can be independently verified. The document as drafted is no longer straightforward. That was Howard's way of saying, you wrote a will to punish your daughter and it just became the instrument of your own undoing. Garrett was already gone. He'd slipped out during Brenda's hug, Stacy's heels clicking behind him down the hallway. I heard the front door of the building open and shut. Mom was being helped to her feet by Brenda and a cousin whose name I should remember but don't. Her mascara had run in 2 dark lines down her cheeks. She looked at me once, just once, as they guided her past my chair. She didn't say anything, but her eyes said everything. I'm sorry. And you were never supposed to find out. Dad sat alone at the head of the table. The Breitling caught the light. The binder sat closed. The DNA report lay in the center of the table, untouched, like a verdict nobody wanted to be the first to pick up. He still hadn't said a word. Margaret laid it out in the hallway afterward, while the family filtered past us toward the parking lot. She kept her voice low, but she didn't sugarcoat it. Here's where things stand. Your father's new will, the one Howard just read, was never signed. It's a draft. Legally, it's toilet paper. She held up a finger. His previous will, filed in 2021, divides his estate equally among my children. No biological qualifier. That will is still operative. So I'm covered either way. I said. Yes. Under the old will, you inherit as his child. If he's stubborn enough to sign the new one, biological children only, you inherit as his only biological child. He built a cage and locked himself inside it. She glanced toward the parking lot where Garrett's Tahoe was pulling out fast, tires barking on cold asphalt. What about Garrett? That depends on your father. Under the new draft, Garrett has no claim. He's not a biological child. Under the old will, he's listed as a child, which is legally sufficient unless someone challenges it. I won't challenge it. She nodded. There's another option. Your father could formally adopt Garrett. Adult adoption is legal in Virginia. Straightforward petition. No age limit. It would restore Garrett's legal standing as Rick's child for inheritance purposes. But it would be public. It would be on record, yes, and Garrett would need to consent. I leaned against the brick wall and watched my breath cloud in the January air. Across the lot, Aunt Brenda was helping Mom into her Lexus. Uncle Dennis stood by his truck, hands in his pockets, staring at the ground. 15 people had walked into that room believing one story. They'd walked out carrying a different one. And the man who'd authored both versions was still sitting inside, alone, at the head of an empty table. Margaret. Thank you. She shook my hand, firm, professional. You didn't need me, Callie. You just needed the truth to have a witness. I went back inside. The conference room was empty, except for Dad. Howard had left, tactfully, I'm sure, with a brief and billable goodbye. The leather binder was gone. The water pitcher was still there, condensation pooling on the walnut. Dad sat at the head of the table. His hands were in his lap now. The Breitling had slid down his wrist loose, like he'd lost weight in the last 30 minutes. His eyes were red but dry. He wasn't crying. I don't think Rick Mitchell had cried since Reagan was in office. I sat down across from him. Not at the far end. Not near the kitchen door. I pulled out a chair 2 seats away and I sat, and I waited. It took him almost a full minute. Did you know? He finally said. Before the test. Did you know about Garrett? No, I said. I just didn't run this time. He nodded. Slow, like the motion hurt. Another silence. Longer. The furnace kicked on again and the vents exhaled warm air across the room. I owe you. He started. You owe me nothing I want to take. He looked at me then. Really looked. Not the dismissive glance across a dinner table. Not the cold appraisal of a man cataloging evidence. He looked at me the way I imagine he looked at that photograph. The one of me at 5, on his lap, laughing, before he decided I didn't belong. But you owe me an apology, I said. In writing, sent to the same people who watched you humiliate me. The group chat, the email list, every person who laughed at that DNA kit joke. He opened his mouth. I'm not asking you to love me, Dad. I'm asking you to correct the record. He closed his mouth. He stared at the table. I stood up, collected my bag, and walked out of Howard Pratt's office into the January cold. The sky was white. The air tasted like frost. My Civic was the oldest car in the lot. I got in. I turned the key. The engine coughed, then caught. I drove to the hospital. I had a shift in 2 hours. 1 week later, Garrett called. I was in the break room, eating a granola bar between patients when his name lit up my phone. I almost let it go to voicemail. Garrett had never once called me with good news, but something in me, maybe the same something that made me say, okay, at the Thanksgiving table, told me to pick up. I did it, he said. No greeting, no preamble. His voice sounded scraped hollow, like a man who'd been yelling into an empty room. I took the test. Went to a lab in Henrico. Got the results this morning. I set down the granola bar. 0%, he said. Richard Mitchell is not my biological father. Probability, 0. I listened to him breathe. In, out. The sound of a man recalibrating 31 years of identity in real time. Did you know it was me? He asked. When you walked in there with that envelope. Did you know? No. I only knew it was me. Silence. I called you Honorary Mitchell your whole life, he said. His voice cracked on the word honorary. I said it like a joke. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas you were allowed to attend, and I'm the one who... He didn't finish. You're still my brother, Garrett. That hasn't changed. How can you say that? After everything Because it's true. We didn't choose this. Either of us. I heard something on the other end that I'd never heard from Garrett Mitchell in 31 years. He was crying. Not the frustrated, angry kind. The kind that comes when the scaffolding falls and you realize the building you were standing on was never there. And you know what? I want to ask you something. If you were in Garrett's place, if you discovered that every privilege, every advantage, every golden boy moment of your entire life was built on a lie someone else told before you were born, what would you do? I genuinely don't know the answer. I don't hate Garrett. He was a victim too, in his own way. He just never knew it until now. Tell me what you think. Drop it in the comments. I didn't cry. I'd done my crying years ago. Come have dinner sometime, I said. I have one chair, but I'll borrow another. He laughed. Just barely. It was a start. 2 weeks after the reading, Mom showed up at my apartment. I saw her through the peephole, standing in the hallway in her wool coat, no makeup, hair unwashed, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She stood there for 5 full minutes before she knocked. I know because I watched. I opened the door. She looked at my studio. The 450 square feet, the counter desk, the one chair, the tiny Douglas fir still up because I hadn't had the heart to take it down, and something in her face collapsed. Not because the apartment was small, because it was mine, because I'd built this life with nothing she or Dad had given me, and it was still standing. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She sat on the edge of my bed, the only other place to sit, and pressed her palms together between her knees. She didn't look at me. She looked at the floor. I knew Garrett wasn't Rick's from the day he was born, she said. The timing. I knew, and I was terrified. So I said nothing. And when your father started to suspect, when he looked at you, with your red hair, and decided you were the proof of what I'd done, I let him. I let him blame you. Because as long as he was suspicious of you, he wasn't suspicious of Garrett. And as long as he wasn't suspicious of Garrett, he wouldn't divorce me. She swallowed. I used you as a shield, Caroline. For 20 years, I let my daughter take the punishment for my lie. The words hung in the air of my tiny apartment. Yes, I said. You did. She flinched. I can't forgive you today. Maybe not ever. But I don't want to carry your secret anymore, Mom. And I won't carry your guilt either. That's yours. She nodded. She stood up. She walked to the door. I noticed her wrists. Bare. No Mikimoto bracelet. She left without asking for a hug. I closed the door behind her, leaned against it, and stood there until my breathing was even again. Then I made myself dinner. Alone. In my apartment. On my own terms. February 14th. Valentine's Day, of all things. The universe has a strange sense of timing. I was eating lunch in the hospital cafeteria. Chicken sandwich, orange juice, fluorescent lights, the usual. When my phone buzzed. Email notification. From Richard A. Mitchell. Subject. To my family. Recipients. The Mitchell family distribution list. All 42 members. The same list he'd used to share the DNA kit photo. The same list he'd used to announce the will. I opened it. To my family, I have spent 20 years treating my daughter Caroline as though she did not belong. I called her a mistake. I denied her opportunities I freely gave to others. I humiliated her publicly on multiple occasions, most recently at Thanksgiving, in front of people she had every right to feel safe around. I was wrong. Caroline is my biological daughter. She has always been my biological daughter. The doubt I held was unfounded, and the damage I caused because of it is something I will have to live with for the rest of my life. She did not ask for money. She did not ask for the business. She asked for one thing, a public correction. This is that correction. Caroline, you were never a mistake. I was. Richard A. Mitchell. I read it twice. The cafeteria noise, trays clattering, someone's phone ringing, two nurses arguing about a shift swap, continued around me like nothing had happened. Dana slid into the seat across from me. She'd seen my face. What is it? I turned the phone toward her. She read it. She looked at me. You okay? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Not the reflexive, I'm fine you give when someone asks during a hard week, but an honest inventory. 20 years of subtraction, one Thanksgiving, one envelope, one piece of paper that said what my father couldn't. I'm free, I said. Dana nodded. She didn't push. She just sat there with me, eating her own terrible cafeteria sandwich under the same fluorescent lights, in the same break that would end in 12 minutes. It was the most ordinary moment of my life, and it was enough. Margaret called in early March. Your father wants to revise the will. New language. Assets split equally between you and Garrett. He's filing a petition for adult adoption. Garrett agreed to it. Virginia courts process these in a few weeks. It'll restore Garrett's legal standing as Rick's child for all purposes. Good, I said. There's also the question of your share. Roughly $800,000 to $1.6 million, depending on valuations. Your father wants you to have it. I was standing at my kitchen counter, the same counter where I'd eaten Christmas dinner alone, where I'd opened the DNA kit, where I'd drafted an email that changed my family, the counter that doubled as my desk, my dining table, my life. I want it converted into an endowed scholarship fund, I said, for nursing students from low-income families. Accredited BSN programs, renewable for 4 years, no strings. Name it the Mitchell Nursing Scholarship. Silence on the line. You're sure? Margaret said. I didn't fight for the inheritance. I fought for the truth. The truth was always enough. She paused. I'll draft the paperwork. I signed the documents on a Tuesday evening at my kitchen counter. The same pen I use for patient charts. The same table. The same 450 square feet. Somewhere out there, a 20-year-old nursing student who grew up being told she wasn't enough, who worked doubles and borrowed money and kept showing up anyway, would get a letter one day telling her that someone believed in her future, that someone had once been in her exact position and made it through. She wouldn't know my name. That was fine. I didn't need anyone to know my name. I just needed someone to get the chance I almost didn't. April. The first warm Saturday in months. The kind of Virginia evening where the dogwoods are blooming and the air smells like cut grass and the light stays golden until almost 8. I hosted dinner. My studio apartment. My rules. 6 people around a second-hand pine table from IKEA, the one I'd bought to replace the counter eating. No chairs had initials carved into them. No assigned seats. No hierarchy. Dana sat to my left, already arguing with my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, 72, widowed, the woman who'd left soup outside my door every Tuesday since I moved in, about whether cornbread should have sugar in it. 2 nurses from the ICU, Marcus and Lee, were debating something about ventilator protocols with the same passion other people reserve for football. Margaret Foley had sent a bottle of wine with a note, for the table, MF. And at the end, in a borrowed folding chair, was Garrett. He'd called the week before. Not his usual breezy tone, quiet, careful, the voice of a man still learning who he was. Can I come? I don't really know where else to go. Bring dessert, I said, and don't bring that Tahoe. Parking's tight. He showed up with a store-bought pie and a Honda Civic he'd bought 2 weeks ago. I didn't ask what happened to the Tahoe. I didn't need to. I sat at the head of the table. Not because I was important, because it was closest to the stove, and the pasta needed stirring. Dad wasn't there. We weren't there yet. Maybe we'd never be. But on my refrigerator, held up with a magnet from the hospital gift shop, was a piece of construction paper. Faded, torn down the middle, taped back together with care. To the best dad in the world. I'd kept it. All these years, I'd kept it. Not for him. For the 8-year-old girl who made it. She deserved to know it survived. I looked around my table. Dana laughing. Garrett listening. Mrs. Patterson winning the cornbread argument. The evening light coming through the window. Warm and gold and ordinary. Family isn't blood. Family isn't a name on a will. Family is who stays when the truth comes out. And for the first time in my life, every person at my table had chosen to be there. That was enough. That was everything. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever been the one overlooked, underestimated, or erased by the people who were supposed to love you first, I want you to know, your worth was never theirs to decide. If you connected with this, please hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. There's another story waiting for you. Check the link in the description. It might be exactly what you need today. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.